Welcome to Sustainability Matters. Today we're tackling a critical topic, waste management in New York City. With over 8 million residents, New York City produces millions of tons of waste each year, creating enormous logistical and environmental challenges. Waste management is a vital issue impacting our neighborhoods, public health, and our climate. Let's turn to Andrew Falzone for an overview on the issues.
No matter where you live around the world, human beings generate waste, which can be broken down into 5 simple categories. Organic wastes are items that can naturally decompose like food. Recyclable waste includes items made from metal, glass, paper, and some plastics. Liquid waste includes wastewater, chemicals, and oils released from household and industry. Hazardous waste includes dangerous and toxic materials, think medical items or discarded batteries. Everything else we throw away that's not recycled falls under solid waste, and according to the UN, unrecycled solid waste is becoming a huge global issue. According to the UN, every year the world generates 2.3 billion tons of municipal solid waste. Without action by 2050, that number will increase to 3.8 billion tons annually. But through better design, clearer economic signals, and proper management of waste, we can create a prosperous circular economy. Here in New York City, a series of laws have been passed with the goal of having zero waste in New York City by 2030. As of 2023, the Department of Sanitation's waste study says that 32% of city waste is curbside recyclables, 36% is organics suitable for composting, 7% is other divertible materials that can be reused instead of being sent to landfill, while 25% of the material is other solid waste. That means 75% of city waste can already be diverted from landfills, and with more than 1/3 of city trash being an organic suitable for composting, New York City rolled out a mandatory curbside organics recycling program, which they say is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
1. Collect food scraps, including meat and dairy items, inside your home using a container or bag to store them. 2. Empty the food scraps into your brown bin. These items should be placed loose or inside certified compostable bags. If you use a plastic grocery bag to collect food scraps, empty the scraps into the brown bin and then throw the bag away. And 3. Set out your brown bin for collection. Yard waste, including houseplants and flowers, can also be set out by placing these items directly into your brown bin, a paper lawn and leaf bag, or a trash bin labeled yard waste only. Participating in organics collection helps New York City reduce waste sent to costly landfills and create compost as an end product. Visit nyc.gov/organics.
Some technologies on the horizon will also help us reuse and recycle better. Currently, plastics pose a huge problem as many types of plastic end up not being recycled for various reasons. Bioremediation is an emerging technology that can help with this issue. Back in 2016, scientists discovered the water-based bacteria seen here at a wastewater treatment plant in Japan, surviving and thriving by eating plastic. Scientists are now working to harness and increase the power of the enzymes that these bacteria produce in order to help break down various forms of plastic into basic chemicals that can be used to make new plastic, helping us inch closer to a zero-waste future. I'm Andrew Falzone for Sustainability Matters.
We're here with 3 experts who bring diverse perspectives and are working on innovative solutions. Samantha MacBride, an expert in urban waste systems and sustainability. Clare Miflin from the Center for Zero Waste Design, a leader in sustainable design and waste reduction at its source. And Lauren Rodriguez from Closed Loop Partners, a key player in driving innovation in recycling and the circular economy. Welcome, guys. Thank you for being here in studio with us. So Samantha, let's start with you. You've been immersed in this for a long time. There are a lot of challenges. What are some of the things that you've learned about overcoming those challenges, given that we've got to get to this sort of sustainable world?
Look at the people who do the hands-on work and the people that are needed to do the hands-on work for any system that you're going to be designing. The people who are picking up the trash, the custodians and building maintenance people who are managing waste in a building, the people who are enabling reuse through washing the dishes and redistributing reusable sanitary dishware instead of disposables. The people that need to be hired by the City of New York but aren't currently there to go out and actually educate buildings and residents on what we need to do to reduce waste far more than we're doing right now. So I would say labor, pay attention to that.
Claire, can you share some examples of how maybe design can help us influence waste reduction?
Sure. I mean, I'm an architect by background, and so it wasn't until I realized how badly buildings were designed for separating food scraps. That was kind of my entry into, oh, we need to design the building right to be able to separate that. And that led to the development of the Zero Waste Design Guidelines through the AIA, the American Institute of Architects, in 2017. And that brought together people from Department of Sanitation, Department of Transportation, City Planning, Department of Education. Like, there was a lot of collaboration to answer the question, how can architects help get to zero waste? What role does design play? And at its simplest level, as Samantha was saying, if you put in a dishwasher, you can have reusable dishes. I mean, think of New York City's school system. They were throwing away almost 1 million styrofoam trays every day. Think of that amount of waste. And then they wanted to be more sustainable, but because the dishwashers and the labor weren't there in every school, they went to compostable trays. So it's better, but it would be so much better to be having reusable dishes within the schools, dishwashers within the schools to wash those dishes. It's much better than taking them elsewhere to be washed as well. So at its simplest level, you can design in systems for reuse at the building scale, similarly at the city scale, and it can't just be the Department of Sanitation. It has to be at every level. It's like EDC, it's like city planning.
Right.
It's like economic development, it's private businesses, it's city government.
It's each of us and what we buy and what we bring.
Yeah, but I don't think we can start with the consumers because there's not a lot of choice for people. You know, there's the people who really care and try, and I admit, you know, I'm a Park Slope Food Co-op member, so I can buy some unpackaged food, not all, but you can go buy bulk food. But we need to change the system so it's easy for people rather than putting all the weight on someone to spend their whole day trying to not buy waste.
Absolutely. And Lauren, so Closed Loop Partners has been instrumental in driving change. What are some of the technologies that you're most excited about that can help us, make that transition?
Yeah, we're excited about a lot of different solutions that help with reducing the waste that we're generating in the first place, and then ultimately recovering as much of that material that needs to go to recycling and ensure that it's being looped back into the supply chains. On the reduction side, the Center for the Circular Economy, which is Closed Loop Partners Innovation Group, recently did a pilot in Denver and Tucson to reduce single-use retail bag waste through a Bring Your Own BYO campaign. They had 150 retailers across the two cities and more than 400 stores doing employee training and asking prompts, having a lot of kind of in-store and out-of-store communications all around reduction, right? So reducing the waste in the first place. Another initiative led by the Center for the Circular Economy was on reuse, which was in Petaluma, California. It was the first in-market pilot to make reusable cups the default option for customers. So they partnered with about 30 local businesses between local cafes and restaurants and national chains, and that became the default. And they had in-store and out-of-store collection bins. And so again, very much to Claire's point around making it ubiquitous and easy. Another example on reuse technologies is a company that's within the Closed Loop Capital Management Group portfolio called EcoSpirits, which is focused on the single-use glass waste for alcohol spirits. A tremendous amount of glass goes to waste and is utilized by that industry, and EcoSpirits has a kind of circular solution, totes essentially, that can be reused many times by restaurants and hospitality outlets. On the recycling side, we are very excited about continuing to invest in advanced sortation technologies. So Closed Loop Partners 2 years ago formed an operating company called Circular Services, which is the largest privately held recycling company in the US. We operate the material recovery facility for the city of New York. So we see everybody's recyclables every single day. That's the largest MRF, as we call it, material recovery facility in the country. And in that facility and in the 20 facilities that we have across the country, we're continuing to look at technologies that can spot the different types of materials that are coming in and route them and ensure that they're kind of maximizing the value. We have a facility that just opened in San Antonio, for example, over the summer, that now has AI-enabled sortation technology. It really helps to optimize the identification of the materials and again, sort them into the right, as we call them, bales, right? So we're looking to bale these materials, treat them as commodities that can then be sold on. And quality matters, which means solutions for contamination and of course, participation, which we can talk a lot more about.
We talked a little bit about how this is a bit of a continuum, that we need more laborers, we need to be sorting, folks need to know what they're purchasing. What are some of the ways that the private sector, government, those of us who want to participate in this, can work together to make a difference in this arena?
I mean, I think what Lauren was saying about what they're doing in Petaluma, that's a collaboration between private businesses. And I just went to Denmark, where in Aarhus they have a reusable cup program in public space. And it was the municipality put out a tender for it, and private companies are doing the washing. It's actually Tomra who's doing it, who have the reverse vending machines. And then they partner with the businesses too. And you need to put money in to get those kind of systems going. So the city needs to invest in it to start with, because there's no return for businesses. So businesses don't want to invest. But then once you get something like that going, it's good for everybody. The city saves money because, think about it, most of our litter bins are single-use cups. So if we can really reduce that amount of waste, the city is spending less on collecting litter bin waste, and our public spaces are better. And the businesses are saving money because they're not buying. So it's like we need these partnerships that benefit everybody, and it's good for consumers because it's easy for them to participate.
Absolutely. Samantha, you've had some experience with this as well.
I would say that New York City, like so many other cities in this country and across the world, has a vibrant community of neighborhood organizations, nonprofit organizations that for at least 30 years have been taking it upon themselves, usually voluntarily, to do enormous amounts of important work around composting, around reuse and waste reduction, around canning and supporting the rights of people who pick up recyclables for deposit redemption. And I think that the city, as well as other levels of government, but especially the city, needs to really embrace that community far more than it has. In my experience over time, that community has either been looked at somewhat patronizingly with a pat on the head, or in more recent times been sidelined and shut out of being a full participant in the policy-making process. And it's really a loss for New York City, because if you think about the work that these groups and individuals have put in, it's entirely for the public good and for their neighborhoods and helping the city. I won't say it is necessarily easy, in that a lot of these organizations need land. They need relatively small pieces of land to do gardening and composting and environmental education. They also need to have some security so that they know that they're not going to be kicked off the land the next year of their operations. And they need modest amounts of funding. They're actually very cost effective for the education and integration of real sustainability, real waste sustainability into community, lives, into people's lives and how they view waste. So I work with such a community organization on Governor's Island, Earth Matter. Governor's Island is actually a great kind of a laboratory for exactly the questions that we're looking at here: reuse systems, how do you implement them, what is the labor involved, who are the stakeholders, how do they work with composting, because there's a very effective composting system on Governor's Island for all food waste. So that's, in my view, how we do it.
Takes everybody in the mix to make this work. Let's take a short break with Kiara Betal, a student in environmental studies from Hunter College. She'll be sharing valuable tips and insights on reducing your waste.
Let's talk about what you as an individual can do when it comes to reducing waste. It may feel like it shouldn't be our individual responsibility to reduce waste. You may have heard that corporations should bear most of the responsibility, since after all, aren't they the major polluters? But here's the thing, you as a consumer actually do have the power to drive change. Often, corporations will adapt their practice based on what we're signaling as consumers, whether that's demanding less packaging, supporting sustainably sourced and transported products, or even boycotting wasteful practice. So I'm going to introduce you to a few tips that you can use to reduce your waste and hopefully influence industries to follow our lead. First, let's be real about the problem. Globally, the fashion industry alone produces 92 million tons of textile waste annually, the equivalent of a garbage truck of clothes dumped every second. About a third of the world's food is wasted every year, which accounts for 8 to 10% of global emissions. Packaging accounts for 40% of all plastic production, and a lot of it is used once and discarded. Americans discard 25 million styrofoam cups annually, which take about 500 years to decompose. Clearly, production and consumption are creating a massive waste problem. Here's how you can help. Buy only what you need. This applies to food, household items, and more. A tip about food: planning your meals can help you avoid food waste and also save you on grocery costs. Opt for bulk products over items packaged for single use. Better yet, shop at stores with packaging-free bulk options if that's accessible to you. Buy secondhand. Thrift shops, consignment stores, and online marketplaces are treasure troves of quality items with a smaller environmental impact. Borrow instead of buying. That one-time costume you're planning or that festival you're attending, see if you can rent pieces or borrow from friends. Repair, don't replace. Ditch the disposables. Opt for reusable water bottles, coffee cups, shopping bags, and advocate for more sustainable practices in your school or workplace. Every purchase you make is a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. Don't let marketing brainwash you into consuming more. Reclaim your power as a sustainable consumer. I'm Kiara Betal for EcoBrief, reminding you that small changes do add up to big impacts.
What do you all see as happening next? What do you think is going to help us take that next step and bring all of this together and make a cohesive system? Maybe we'll start with Lauren.
I think a fundamental concept of the circular economy, which is ultimately what we're trying to build, is valuing the materials that we're throwing away. And when you can align incentives across all of the stakeholders, ourselves, businesses, private and public organizations, the governments, it can move everyone towards this goal of keeping these materials in circulation and not going to landfill, not ending up in the environment. One thing that's standard, just for example, in any municipal recycling contracts, the municipality will share in the proceeds of the sales of the materials that are recovered in their city. And so they're incentivized to ensure that their residents are putting materials into the bin and that they're putting clean or not putting the things we don't want into the bin, not throwing lithium batteries, which can be pretty harmful for recycling operations. I think also policies, right, that are informed by research and industry expertise can go a really long way in both enabling and in some cases, mandating what is necessary to ensure that we have a viable system for recovering these materials. Accessibility, right? We've talked a lot about that is key, and making it second nature, right, to capture these materials in the first place. Yeah.
Samantha, what do you see as next? What do you think will get us to scale in this arena?
I am a big believer in public data, in open data, in making far more of the data that already is being collected and organized in very intricate ways, visible and legible to the public, to members of the media, to policy scholars like my colleagues at the Marxe School at Baruch College, so that we can actually measure whether policies that are being mounted on very large scales in New York City around commercial waste or residential waste or school waste are actually delivering and learning from performance metrics at a city scale and ideally at large institutional scales as well with CUNY and other big institutions.
Even on a statewide level, right?
Yeah.
We have Executive Order 22, which is requiring all the agencies to report on their waste diversion.
Right.
So that's a big step.
And it's important not only just to report big round numbers, but to get into what are the categories of diversion, what are the different materials, are we talking about lithium batteries or aluminum cans, what the markets are, these kinds of questions that go beyond sort of the big numbers and percentages to actually follow materials, because that's what it takes to achieve real circularity.
I think it's a huge change that's needed. It's such a massive change, and I think that we need to engage hope. Climate despair is very real, so some of these tangible solutions, like composting to regenerate soils, I love the urban forest agenda and how that is like equitably increasing tree canopy in the whole city and how it engages people. There's a map of every single street tree in New York City that has been crowdsourced, and people add to that map. Yeah. There's people who are street tree care. They go out, they add compost, they add mulch to these trees. And they've done analysis is that often this is people's first time doing volunteerism, and it makes them more civically involved, more connected to their neighbours. Community composting is similar. They've shown that it really brings communities together to do the composting. They see the benefits. It's just so tangible.
Yeah.
So I think the future has to be bringing people in these tangible solutions. So it's a huge change in the way cities operate from our former grey infrastructure of pipes and big centralized facilities to this distributed nature-based solutions within the city. And then it has to be support of reuse. And those reuse systems can be libraries. Look at our libraries, they're in every neighborhood. They should be sharing so much more than books. We should not be defunding libraries. We should be like, what else can libraries lend so people can consume less? We should be supporting all these things Samantha said. There's like repairs, swaps, all these community-led events to reduce the amount we consume. We should be supporting them so much so we can reduce consumerism. And then, of course, there need to be policies, EPR bills at state levels. There need to be policies at federal levels. And I'm not saying that recycling isn't important. It has to happen. And I would encourage everybody to go to Sims and just see how those optical sorters separate the plastics. It's pretty amazing. And it feels good that in New York City we know that when we throw away our recycling, it is being separated in the best way it possibly can be.
If I could add in terms of that, two key parts will be bringing the level of technological sophistication to other material types, right? So moving beyond packaging, which has been part of the recycling stream and is where we're seeing a lot of the innovation on reuse, but also to textiles and apparel and electronics. There's a lot of emerging technologies on sophisticated sortation so that you can retain the value, return it to its supply chain. So I think that will have to be part of a circular future, is expanding and what materials can be part of the circular economy and deepening those markets for those materials, whether it's through reuse or recycling. I also think that there'll need to be more development on keeping these materials, one, of course, domestically, but ideally even closer to home, right? And having those circular loops tighter so that we are optimizing, right? What we're using, what we're putting back into the economy.
Well, I want to thank all three of you for what you're doing. It is an immense job. It has many moving parts. We hear a lot about energy and we hear a lot about solar and batteries, but waste is one of those areas that we need to pick it up in our conversations, because we're all producing it, and there's just so much opportunity for us to make a difference here. So thank you all for what you're doing, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Please keep the conversation going and follow us or send us a message on social media. Better yet, download our CUNY TV app. Be sure to join us next month to discuss climate and art. We'll explore how artists are using creativity to inspire action and raise awareness about the urgent environmental challenges we face.